What up, YouTube Digital? Still got some insurance videos to do, but apparently one person doesn't like them. Apparently they know more than me. Anywho, matter of fact, since I've been asked this, that's my new toy I got today. ELM 357 OBD2, but it's Bluetooth to work with my tablet. I'll have to try it out. Wife took the car, so I'll try it out when she gets home. But anywho, my job. I'm gonna go through kind of the history me working there. Try to do as fast as possibly can, but there's some cool stories here and there in it. First off, I was still doing janitorial when my wife and I got married. My back was done. The boss was, the best man in my marriage. I'd known him since I was my daughter's age, and he was really fucking up. And the only thing he had left to do, I took over everything except for he needed to print out the paychecks and sign them. And he couldn't do that on time because he was going through a divorce, and he needed to deal with his own shit. But it was time to go. And I've been there 7 years. And funny thing is, after I left, all the accounts quit. It's a theme in my life. But anywho, I worked at 7-Eleven for a few months to just redo my head. My wife was working at this place called House to Home, which was a retail store that Home Base, which used to be like Home Depot, was fighting the war between Home Depot and Lowe's, and Home Base was the biggest for a while, and then it was the .com crash or something happened to their credit, and they just fell out overnight, just done. So they had enough in a lot of shit. They reinvented themselves and reopened, right after they liquidated everything out. They reopened as House to Home. My wife was selling at least $12K a week in furniture there, even though she wasn't on commission. It was to the point that Simmons and Lazy Boy wanted to sell her stuff at their cost, because she was selling so much that the regional salespeople had to keep coming in and reordering the stock and all this other bullshit. And so yeah, we never got a chance to even take advantage of it. It was only a couple months later that they said, okay, we're gonna close. It was just basically a way to repurpose money to scam it back out. I can't prove that, but yeah. So I was about ready to apply where I'm working at now, but my wife needed a job, and as much as I wanted her to go work at a commission store, I said, screw that. You go work over here. It's a good job. It's a good career. So you go work over there, and if they allow me to work, because husband and wife type thing, if they allow that, then I will come in too at a later date. So she took it and found out within the second day of her working that yeah, I can. So I started the application again, and basically I got hired on, and I pretty much was told I was going to be a supervisor, but the person that hired me ended up getting fired, and I got turned into a regular phone person. Just still don't know how that happened, but it's life. So they put me out on the floor after training and everything, and they had me taking calls from doctors' offices, and they had me out there for it wasn't even a month, and they asked me if I wanted to go to a special team where they're they were called dedicated because they only took phone calls from certain people. And I was like, okay, sure. And so I got put on that special team, which is only like 14 people. And everything was cool. About a month or two later, they asked me if I wanted to take supervisor calls at night. I'm like, okay, whatever. So they let me do that, and people are getting pissed in the office because I just barely got there, and usually they don't allow you to do shit for 9 months. You do this, 9 months later you can start asking, and here I am just bam bam bam. Then they were allowing me to work on the phone system where I could send the calls to different phones. Not only did I could watch the phones in front of me, like every phone line and every person and how long they've been on the phone, who they're talking to, I could tap in and listen to it and everything else, but I can send them different people. So they had me doing this as a job shadowing deal, which was funny because I did a lot of job shadowing for 4 years. After I started doing that job shadowing, they had a team pop up, and again, this was right about my 8th month being there, and this team was going to be a specialty team that dealt with, oh yeah, they were allowing me to do overtime within the first month, and that's another thing that's not allowed for like the first year, and I'm doing it the first month. And the specialty team would be doing the same thing I was doing on overtime, which would be fixing issues where people who called multiple times, we needed to stop it now and deal with it. Whatever it is, send a letter, get a claim adjusted, whatever it is, we needed to handle. So I got the person that was running this team wanted me on it, and so I had to interview for it, but I got the job. It was just a formal bullshit thing, and I got the job. The funny thing is I was still shadowing for the phone deal, and they were coming up with a position that I applied for, and I didn't get it. A friend of mine got it, but I didn't get it, but they still wanted me to shadow. It's like, the fuck. Anywho. And then they had me doing other things too. They gave me my security thing. Every time you get have to use a new system or a new tool, a lot of times you have to get security. Well, usually somebody's security is a page or two. Mine was 10. One of the last times I talked to the tech support department, they went through us on my security, and they said they never seen an employee with even half of what I have. I still have stuff that I can't even talk about, and that's one of the reasons I do what I do now, because I busted my butt and I got all those accesses. But okay, so I'm not really on the phones anymore, but I'm dealing with all these specialty issues and making sure they're done so our office doesn't look bad. And at the same time, every time a supervisor job would come up, I was posting for it. I was going for it. And finally, it came to a point where it was just about before my daughter was born, the supervisor we had on a special team, she got a promotion. So the job was open, and I asked to be the team lead on it. And they actually gave it to me, which I'm pretty shocked about. So one of the first things I did is every 2 minutes they would change the way how things were done, as far as, once a person said, I want to talk to a supervisor, they would change everything afterwards. Sometimes the people were walking around, sometimes you transfer it, it was just a big fucking mess. And they never got why it never worked. And I specialize in coming up with plans of... Sound like your garage door opening. But I specialize in coming up in plans with, like how to clean and stuff. I can't remember production type shit. So I drew up this whole big old fucking thing from when a person says I want a supervisor to it's done. And I drew up this big old standard operating procedure. One person helped me because they had I had to do it for another line of insurance, and they were specialty in that. And basically I got it done. I turned it in. The director loved it, and she goes, well, I'm going to send it up to Corp and get it approved. And just that made my deals with the supervisors who hated me, why I wasn't ever getting a supervisor position, it made them hate me even more. But didn't hear back. In the meantime, I didn't hear, whether or not they were going to do it. In the meantime, they asked me to be on an interview for a soon-to-be new supervisor. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm sitting in there, and this lady who was in the Air Force for like 12 or 15 years. She got out like an E2 or an E3. It was like, okay, what the fuck? And she was being all secretive. She was in the Air Force, but she like did payroll or some shit. She didn't supervise anyone. She was clearly a fucking screw up. But she had these jobs at these, bigger, pretty known places as a supervisor. And everybody was gushing over her after she left and everything else. And they got to me and they're like, oh, what do you think? Oh, wasn't she so cool? And I'm like, you're joking, right? First off, what's going on with their record? She didn't even have a DD-214. It was just a like a resume type deal. I don't know what the fuck it was, but it wasn't a DD-214. So I've seen those before, and I'm like, she spent this long and she only came out this rank? This something ain't right. She messed up somewhere. But the other thing is even if you don't look at that, you look at all these jobs. She was only at them at 4 or 5 months apiece. So you can't tell me she's going to be a good supervisor when she hadn't even been at those jobs long enough to know those people's names. So whatever. I would not hire her to take regular phone calls. Sure enough, they got all pissed off at me, and they ended up hiring her. And then I kept walking by the director's office, and every time I did, I walked by, told you so, every day. So finally she asked me to stop doing that because she said I was right. And I said, yeah, I know, I told you so. But anywho, I get pulled aside, and this is a critical point in my fucking career. I get pulled aside and by one of the business managers, and they go, look, there's a big change in corporate. They're doing this whole new program they want us to do. We're killing the team that you're team leading. We're killing the other team. We're making one new team that does, all this stuff. And they said they hadn't even really read the whole program yet or anything else. They just got it. And I'm like, oh, great. And they told me that this job is an apply for job. And basically, I need to make sure that the people that I'm overseeing reapply for this position, because if they don't, they either don't have a job or they're going to be put back out on the, they're going to be like a new employee on the floor. So I like, okay, and she handed me the program, and I didn't even really read it. I just went out, gathered up everybody, took them in there, and again, I'm not even really their supervisor, for Christ's sake. I should not have even been allowed to do this. But I'm sitting here going, okay, look, we're being forced to reapply for our jobs. But our jobs are changing on top of that. Here's the program. And this is within like literally 2 weeks before my wife was scheduled to give birth. And I sat there and I still hadn't looked at the program yet because these things have changed so many times. I just stopped, really caring. And someone's like, on the team was like, you better look at this. And I started reading it and I said, oh shit. This is the one I wrote. And I said, wait a minute, I'll be right back. I went to the director and I'm like, this is the one I wrote. And she pulled out the copy that she had, and sure enough, and even the misspelling I did, and I figured out I did afterwards, it was there. Someone redid it and put their name on it. They gave it a name and put their name on it. They only changed one thing out of the whole deal. And the only thing is, I didn't want everyone to adjust claims. I only wanted one person because it's too much of a pain in the butt. And that person was a bigwig. I mean, like a senior vice president. So it's not like I could just call him out. But I'm like, look, you could at least, contributed. Could at least gave me $100 or something. But basically, I got fucked. And, yeah, good life lesson right there. But, I had to reapply. Of course, I got the new position. And I had to go to training within, my daughter was just born. And, I had to go to training, a week after she only got like 4 days off, and I had to be back in training. And I did that job for a little bit, and then I got the job I have now I applied for. Basically now I handle the bad issues. The ones that I deal with 20 or more claims that need to be adjusted, but I need to figure out who, what, when, where, why, how, what needs to be done. Is there a system change? Is the contract loaded wrong? All that shit I need to figure out. And I need to make sure that, I send off for the system to be updated. I need to know all of the medical policies, anesthesia, multiple procedure, add-on codes. I need to know all the insurance regulations for all 50 states, and on top of that, all the federal regulations, which can be coming out of Department of Insurance, Department of Labor, FDA, all these type of fucking things. And then, on top of that, I need to be versed on Medicare, Medicaid, state-funded, all this crap. Then I need to be versed on coordination of benefits for multiple ways. Like if a person was in a car accident, who's primary, who's secondary, who's third, who's fourth. Someone fell down someone's stairs, they got slipped in a Walmart. All that has to be done right. Under law, we got to figure out, there's a guideline out there of who is first, second, third, fourth in those cases. And, I got to do that. So there's my job essentially is not easy. I have to, it takes up a lot of knowledge and everything else. And I can work, like I said, it's 20 or more claims, but that or more can end up being, I think the biggest one I've had now is over 100,000 claims. The biggest dollar amount I've had was over 25 million. Before that, when I was physically adjusting claims myself, the biggest payout I've done on one single claim was 1.2 million on one claim. You don't get that unless you bust your ass. You don't get all the securities I've had unless you bust your ass. So now I'm in a spot that my work is looked at on the executive level. The other day I had a vice president of a huge, gigantic hospital chain, one of the biggest ones in the nation, call me out of the blue. I didn't even know who the fuck he was. And he wanted to discuss a potential problem with his fee schedule. And I had to calm him down, avert it, and everything else. If I figure out who the fuck he even was. It had nothing really to do with me. But I was helping a friend who was going out on vacation. And so he got my number off her voicemail and decided to call me. Then, because he's executive level and everything else, it was found out by my company's executive level, and that created a big old conference call, which, you know, everybody was freaked out and everything else. And actually that guy was on the call. He's like, oh, no, John fixed it all. We're all good. So I'm getting messages on the thing going, thank you, and I'm like, what? I just did my job. What I see on YouTube is what I see a lot in work. People will get a gut feeling too quick and they pass over it. Most of the shit I do is so simple, it's ridiculous. But it's been screwed up so many times because everybody just makes their rush decision based on stuff that's not even evidence. And it's the same shit I see on YouTube. It's the same shit I see in life. They'll put their blinders on, you know, like horses, and they won't look at all of the facts. They'll just look at what they want to look at, and that's it. You can't do that. You know? You can't. It's like, we know, I said it earlier this week or something like that, you know, we know Obama's an asshole. We don't have to sit here and try to pick up every single story out of the news. And when 85% of these stories are complete fail, we don't need to sit there and focus on every one to show he's an asshole. We all know that, you know. So it's not doing any good. And then they, you know, got the stories that just are not even, you know, like all the shit that I'm ending up debunking within 2 minutes. You know, it's going rash. It's going, you know, crazy. And I'm able to debunk it in 2 minutes because nobody does research. I'm not really doing anything special. I mean, yeah, I have a greater capacity of memory and shit like that, but I'm not, you know, I'm not performing open heart surgery or anything. I'm just making sure shit gets done. And I get scored. I mean, if the people are not happy, you know, I could be fired. If I did some of the shit I see people do, I'd get fired. And I love my job. You know, I love it. I get to see the true nuts and bolts of the industry. I get to sit there and deal with it. The other day, was it last week, I was dealing with Medicaid. I was calling them up and having a conversation trying to coordinate benefits. And stuff like that. I deal with these other companies directly. I deal with automobile. I can remember, didn't I do that video on the fucked up story, like the kid that got hit when he was riding a quad? And all that shit that, you know, a lot of shit I've dealt with. You know, matter of fact, I got a service award from the director of one of our big groups, one of our very special groups. a girl called and praised my service and everything else. And basically she told him I took a nightmare situation and I made it okay, and I was able to talk her completely through it. And it was a situation where she was 15 or 14 or something like that, and she wanted a HIPAA lock and all this other stuff. She didn't want her parents to know. And so I get this big old award thing, and I guess they gave me like $200. And the director was like, oh, you know, that was awesome and everything else. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, do you even know what the fuck I did? And she sat there and said, no. I said, I helped, I think she was 15. A 15-year-old girl get an abortion because her boyfriend raped her. I don't really want the award. You know, fuck. So, you don't know how many times I've had to deal with even stupid shit like that. How many times I've had to deal with when I was taking phone calls. I take 100 of them a day plus. You know, I think the most I took in a day was 130, 140 phone calls. You know how many times I've heard old people having to divorce and all this shit because of Medicare being a piece of shit. They can't get on state. They can't get on Medicare and Medicaid because they have too much. So the husband and wife have to divorce, and whoever the poor sucker is has to have nothing. Then they can get on Medicaid to help back them up because Medicare just doesn't fucking pay. Because social fucking healthcare is so fucking great. You know, there's a lot of shit that I've had to deal with. A lot of fucking stress I've had to deal with. And that's one of the reasons why I got the position I do. I worked hard. I have, if I could print out my paychecks deals and show how much overtime I've worked in the last, I stopped working in this department, which I've had now for 5 years. But for that first 5 years, I was doing 24 hours a week. Constantly. I was another reason why the supervisors and stuff hated me is because they were locked in on hourly. We set up kind of like the military. We have grade level system, and they were locked in on salary. I was hourly and doing overtime. I was making more than their bosses, so that pissed them off even more. And then when I got this job, I ended up being a grade level above them and hourly still. Even though I don't do any overtime. But anywho. So, in a nutshell, I handle a lot of shit. I take care of a lot of fucked up shit. And basically, it comes down to I'm like the wolf in Pulp Fiction. I make bad shit go away. The right way. No sweeping it under the fucking rug. No, none of this. I mean, let me put it this way. The next level past me would be the state attorney general opening up a lawsuit. So, yeah, the buck stops here is past the point. But anywho, that's enough of this one. Oh yeah, that SOP that I wrote, the one that they used to change every 6 months, and they can never figure out why they never worked. The one I wrote is still going today, over 6 years, still going. Matter of fact, they expanded it to the rest of the company. And now they got a new program where they want people. I mean, they've changed in the last 10 years. They want people to step up and give things like that. And now they got a whole department that when you submit it, it's secure. If they like it or whatever, if it's a good enough idea not to be a to be a jerk off and just trying to scam money, if it's a good enough idea, I think you even give $50 just for turning one in. But it has to be, so you can't just like, oh yeah, change the toilet paper to 2-ply. It has to be something real. And but now, if that would have happened back then, it would have been my name on it, and I would have got probably a very decent bonus, probably 5-10 grand. It's okay, because at the end of the day, that's why I got my job. So in the end of the day, it worked out in my behalf. And that's where people need to realize also, is stop being so fucking negative, because even negatives turn into positives. If I didn't do that SOP, I probably wouldn't have this job. So anyhow, that's what I do every day.